West wants to export to the terrorists in Syria will certainly reach Jabhat al-Nusra. Dozens of terrorists are killed and their hideouts destroyed in several areas in the country. Repair and rehabilitation work is underway to restore services in Al-Qusayr. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Yarado Krikorian with the news in English. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has affirmed that Russia has no doubt the terrorist Jabhat al-Nusra will get Western weapons in case they are exported to Syria. In an interview with Russia Today satellite channel, Lavrov said, "Differences between Russia and the West are related to the way the crisis in Syria should be settled, not to the final objectives." He affirmed that everybody hates to see the Iraqi scenario repeated in Syria. Lavrov said the Syrian leadership asserted to Moscow its agreement on the Group of 8 summit recommendations and underlined readiness to take part in the Geneva Conference on Syria. Lavrov added that Western states are not sure they will be able to convince the Syrian opposition of the need to take part in such conference. Iranian Assistant Foreign Minister for Arab and African Affairs Hossein Amir Abdullahian has affirmed that extremists are attacking all the Syrian people and flaring up differences in Syria. Abdullahian, who is currently visiting Kuwait, said the calls by certain sides for jihad against the Syrian government and its allies ignite extremism in the region. Abdullahian added that his country's support for Syria is confined to the economic, political and media aspects, denying reports about military assistance offered by Iran to the Syrian Arab Army. In the framework of its continued operations against Jabhat al-Nusra terrorists in Dalla, army units killed a number of terrorists who were committing looting acts and attacking the military checkpoints, among them the leader of one of the armed terrorist groups. A military source told Sana that a unit of the armed forces destroyed terrorist hideouts in the villages of Al-Shabraq, Saysoon, Tsil, Jelin, Jamle, Tafas and Al-Mzayrib with all the weapons inside them. The source added that an armed terrorist group which was committing looting acts and cutting the roads near Tal al-Jumu'a on Sahm al-Jawlan road was eliminated as its weapons were destroyed. In Qunaitira countryside, a unit of the armed forces seized amounts of weapons and ammunition in Jibha town and killed terrorist Akrima al-Da'as, the leader of an armed terrorist group affiliated to Jabhat al-Nusra, and arrested others. In Al-Hasaka, an official source said that a unit of the armed forces clashed with terrorists who attacked military checkpoints in Al-Basel, Al-Muhafada and Al-Sabbagh roundabouts, killing and injuring a number of them and destroying their weapons. In Aleppo, our armed forces have intercepted terrorist groups' attempts to attack Suleiman al-Halabi and Bustan al-Qasr neighborhoods and infiltrate into Al-Ashrafiyeh and Al-Zira'a Park east of Bustan al-Basha. The army destroyed Doshka machine gun-equipped vehicles and mortar shells and inflicted heavy losses on the terrorists at Al-Mushat Bridge and the entrance of Al-Wakalat Street, as well as east of Al-Qahqah Mosque in Al-Sakhur and north of Saad Mosque, Sheikh Khudr Cross Point, Bani Zaid, at Turkawi Square and Qasd al-Harami in the ancient part of the city. The army also foiled an attempt by Jabhat al-Nusra terrorists to attack Aleppo Central Prison and killed dozens of armed men and destroyed their equipment east of the glass and safe factories. An armored vehicle was also destroyed northwest of the industrial town. In Damascus suburbs, the army restored security and stability to the eastern and western Ghouta after eliminating several terrorists, including Dalal Mutlaq and Abd Salam al-Muajjal, and terrorist leader Hussan Ibrahim al-Numairi. The army also took control of the western mountains adjacent to Halboun village in Damascus suburbs. In Hama, northern countryside, our armed forces restored stability to Aqarba province at the villages of Soha and Tuwaybat al-Ayyash after eliminating a large number of terrorists. The roads leading to As-Salamiya countryside were all blocked by terrorist gunmen before army interfered and fulfilled its national tasks of defending every inch of the Syrian land, clearing these areas of al-Nusra terrorists. In Al-Qusayr, in Homs suburbs, the people started to return to their homes after the army had restored security and stability to the city. Maintenance workshops continue the repair and rehabilitation operations. The cleaning, electricity, water and telephone workshops are working at a high speed to resume necessary services. The city's main water pumping station was put back into operation despite the big damage inflicted on the water network. Cleaning workshops have been working since the early hours of the morning to remove the debris and clean the city. Maritime navigation information in the Russian Far East has said one of the largest container vessels in the world, Malcomfort, crashed off the Yemeni shores in the Pacific Ocean. The Russian Port News website, which reported this, said the aforementioned vessel was carrying 4,500 containers of weapons and ammunition to the American Army in Jordan to be delivered to the armed gangs in Syria. The vessel had set off from the American Army's warehouses in Singapore towards Al-Aqaba harbor in Jordan to be transferred to the Syrian-Jordanian borders. Erdogan troops broke into Cordon Square in Izmir and took off tents planted by demonstrators. Anti-government protests continue in Turkey, but the methods have changed. The 2 weeks of clashes in which 4 people died and about 5,000 were injured drew increasing numbers of supporters. These standing man protests, as they are called, began Monday after the government quashed mass demonstrations which it said were fomenting violence and chaos. The Turkish people had already arrested dozens of protesters and used tear gas and water cannons to disperse them. Now to latest business and market news after a short break.